On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, where did all my money go? So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and I am joined, as always, by your financial coach, George Corbello. How you doing, George?
Happy days, my friend. Back from vacation. I'm doing well. I have more money than month in the money, or what's the? I'll get the catchphrase one day. But came back from Oklahoma City, picked up my daughter. She had a great time. Had my birthday out there, so I'm 47. Going on 21, every year I lie to myself, so that's going to continue to, do that every year. But good, man, doing really well. I got to say, bucket list, Oklahoma City off the list. We're good there. But it was really nice. Family had a great time, and we unfortunately I got the CrowdStrike, craziness in the airports and stuff like that. So just to let you know, I started my trip on a Sunday, 12 noon Eastern Standard, right? Didn't get home because of all the delays in the flights till Monday, 5 a.m. the next morning. So it was so whoever's doing the travels, I'm so sorry. Obviously patience is a virtue and, definitely needed. But I'm hoping everybody got home from the weekend, but it was great. I'm back home doing well.
You got stuck in the Microsoft blue screen of death?
Oh, not as bad as Delta, but we definitely had some issues there, but I'm glad we're home.
Well, and because I'm a guy, I don't remember when your birthday is. I rely on Facebook for that. But I did notice that we did an episode specifically about my birthday, and you were conveniently absent for us to record an episode about yours.
Well, next year. We'll do it next year then, if that's the case. I just don't want the reminder of, I'm getting a little older, so I'm good.
Next year. So, what will help you focus in your old age?
I know what would, and what has been helping me focused in my old age.
We do have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Magic Mind. I've got some for you.
More shots.
More shots for you. I've taken shots. It is not needles. We're not talking about shots with needles.
Drink.
Talking about drink shots. But Magic Mind is a sponsor of the show, and they do a great job. They have a great product. I enjoy it. I know, George, you've had them. You enjoy it. They really do help you focus. And I know on days when I'm going to need that extra oomph, I like to take a shot of Magic Mind. They are a sponsor of the show. You can support them by going to their website, magicmind.com, and if you put /crushing20, and that's also the code crushing20, that'll give you 20% off your first order, and it will help you focus, and it will help you stay focused. It'll become part of your daily routine. We hope they taste good.
Yeah, they taste good. They don't give you the jitters. Again, that kind of the sugar high, the coffee high, those kind of things, and there's no drop. Yeah. So I think that's what helps out tremendously when it comes to taking these kind of things. I don't want to feel that drop at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, and I also noticed for me it wasn't that fake sugar aftertaste anything either. So anyway, so Magic Mind. You can go to magicmind.com /crushing20. You can get them either 15 or 30, or you can get them monthly. They'll deliver it to you every month. I think that code gives you 20% off either your first order or your first month, depending on what you do. So thank you, Magic Mind. But I do want to get to our guest this week. So our guest is a fellow financial coach.
Outnumbered.
Well, which means I don't got to do much this episode. I can just sit back and let the two of you talk. So our guest is an advocate, educator, financial coach, and the co-founder of Stop the Movement and Flourish Coaching. Her passion is to help people avoid the financial pitfalls that so many Americans fall into. Whether your goal is to get out of debt, fund your kids' college tuition, or plan your dream future, or even in George's case, your bucket list vacation.
Oklahoma City.
She is here to help. Welcome our guest, Sara LaChance. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I guess I want the first question that I might have for you, that I have for a lot of our guests, really is why? What got you to the point where you really have this desire to help people through helping them with their finances?
Great question. So I'll give you a little bit of background as to why I got into this. So I got married very young at 21, which at 21, who knows how to do anything. And we moved out to California, opened up a business. And if you know anything about California, it's extremely employee friendly, not employer friendly. We didn't know that. And so we're making money, we're spending money. And then in year two of business, got a tax bill to the tune of five very high figures that
Wow.
we were not prepared to to pay. Had to take a loan out to pay a tax bill, and it was just a snowball of poor choices thereafter. And I just thought this cannot be the way. And so fast forward many, many years, I had signed up to, become a financial coach. I never did the work, just paid the money. Life kind of got in the way, and I had made some good investments. I'd made some poor financial choices, as we do, and finally decided to bite the bullet and do this program, and just became more and more passionate after learning that I am clearly not the only one who has fallen prey to making poor choices. And I just realized how easy they are to avoid. And so I love working with, I've worked with, many people who are like in their 20s that they don't know any better. They don't know what they don't
Right.
know. And so I want to help prevent. And then for people who are in my situation, maybe walking through a divorce, or a single mom, or, maybe getting ready to retire but haven't really planned for it, I want to be able to help those people. So prevention is key, but if you can't do that first, then we can always make smart choices starting now. So that's kind of why I'm here.
Yeah, no, and we really appreciate it. I do want to give out your contact information real quick, and I'll do it a couple of times. I'll post it in the notes for anyone that wants it. But your website is weareflourishcoaching.com. Your email is sarah@theflourishcompanies.com. Your Instagram is she fights for, so she underscore fights underscore for, FOR. And Facebook, Sara LaChance. So if you want to connect with Sarah, there's a whole bunch of ways to do it. Again, we'll post those in the notes if you want to just click on those links. But I know. I guess you said, as you're now a single mom, and so I know that you have a specific focus. Although I assume you'll work with anybody, but I know you have a specific focus on either divorcees or single moms, or other people in your, that you share a commonality with.
Right, absolutely. I read a book that kind of changed my life. I read a bunch of books over the past 5 years that have changed my life. One of the ones that stands out the most is by David Bach. It's called Smart Women Finish Rich. And he's written many books like that: Smart Couples Finish
Right.
Rich, etc. He's a phenomenal author, a genius. I'm sure George knows who he is, but that book really helped me. And I read Smart Couples first and then Smart Women. And one of the things that he talked about in the book was how important it is to, if you're married, to communicate with your spouse about finances. And so I started talking to my friends, whether they were married or single, and just asking them, even my parents, asking my mom, do you know the financial health of your relationship? Like, do you know which one of you manages the money? Are you doing it together? Is it just on one of you? And if it's not you, do you have access to these things? Do you even know who you banking with? If you have investments, do you know who those are with? Do you, know your financial advisor? And honestly, the responses were concerning.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people in your life that you can relate as well. A lot of them were like, I don't want to know. I don't want anything to do with it. I just let them handle it. And I can't, I couldn't disagree with that more. That's the worst possible advice to give somebody, especially if you're in a relationship, is to just let one person handle it. It's a recipe for disaster. So yes, I will work with anybody, but I love working with people who are venturing out on their own, and trying to get their financial house in order. But if I have one piece of advice for married couples, it's to have these conversations. It's so unhealthy not to.
Yeah, some of the things that I've seen, you're right. It's that it's easier to just put the head in the sand, right? To kind of like maybe it'll resolve itself, the issues, but usually they come out in those kind of conversations, just in passing, right? So,
Yeah.
but I love the intention in a sense of like let's talk about this. How do we talk about it? Because that's the other thing too.
Right.
It's not really about like, what do we talk about in regards to the numbers and the money, but
Right.
sometimes we have different personalities coming into a
Mhm.
relationship, and we're never taught. There's no lesson, right, to say, hey, how do I talk to my
Totally.
wife or my husband in regards to money,
Right.
but, money, politics, and religion, right? Those are the
Right, right.
all the third rail
Ooh,
conversations. But I mean,
yes.
I think that's where again a good coach can really help to really structure that foundation to say yes, it's beyond the numbers. The numbers is one aspect, but it's how do I talk better
Totally.
between each other? How do we talk to our
Hmm.
kids? How do we I imagine
Yeah.
all of us say the same thing, right? It's man, I wish when I was younger, I wish I learned all of these kind of things and all these lessons. But what are we,
Hmm.
as we have kids, right? I imagine what are we doing differently? How are we managing those things so that
Right.
we're not passing the same mistakes
Right.
over in generation to
Right.
generation?
Well, the numbers are the
Right.
numbers.
So
So,
true.
I'm only going to I make X amount of dollars. That's what
Yep.
I bring into the house.
Right.
So
Right.
the benefit of the conversation is, okay, here's what I brought in, here's what you brought in.
Yep.
Now what do we do with it?
Yep. Oh, what do we do with it? That's a
Correct.
great conversation to have, and not
Yes.
many people have that one. Sorry.
It's true. And it's very emotional. You're a lawyer. Things are black and white. When you get into a conversation with your spouse and it's emotional and it's, heated, it's much harder, I think, to just say, I bring in this, you were bringing this, what are the bills? If that were the case, nobody would be in debt. You
Yeah.
know, that one of the thing love him or hate him, I think Dave Ramsey has some fantastic um, advice and points, and he's a multimillionaire. He's obviously got it figured out. But he says that spending is 80% behavior, it's 20% head knowledge. It's not. I mean, we all know that we shouldn't be spending more than we're making. We all know that we should plan for the future. We all know that we should probably eat at home more than we do, and maybe we don't need to buy the new car or get coffee every day. But it's behavior, it's not necessarily head knowledge. So when you have that conversation with your spouse, it's a little bit harder to do it, I think, being even keeled and not pointing the finger, especially if you're in a relationship and you're the spender and they're the saver, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what you guys are. Are you spenders or savers?
I'm a spender, unfortunately. My wife is
Are you?
much better with the savings. I'm the financial coach, and yet I know what I am. But again, that's for me the hustler, right? You got to make the money. But I think the one thing that I've learned over the years, it's living within your lifestyle. It's living within your means.
Mm,
Really puts you in a
yeah.
position. You're right. It may not be the coffee or the latte or the fromy, whatever they call the coffee these days, but it's all of it together is really how it impacts like the overall budget. If I live within my lifestyle, I
Yeah.
can do what's important to me. You'll be surprised. And again, Sarah,
Mhm.
you tell me from your clients, do a lot of clients, a lot of people, they don't know what their goals are. They don't know. They just go and make money,
Absolutely.
and they just they just okay, I just spend it, like, or somebody else, Uncle Sam somebody takes it. And I think that is another
Yeah.
thing where it's like, what are the goals? What do you want to save? Do you want to invest?
Totally.
Do you want to? Those are the questions, those simple questions that not a lot of people are having those conversations today. But again, what's your take on that?
So true. Well, okay, so I love that, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about with couples is to have a dream date.
Yep.
So I'm sure you're familiar with that, but for the people who aren't, a dream date is when you sit down with your partner and you list out separately your dream for the future. And you'd be surprised because most couples don't have this conversation. You're just probably envisioning that you guys are on the same page and you may not be.
Right.
My one of my like future goals, I want to retire in North Carolina. I want to live in a cabin. I want to be on a lake. We always encourage people to be as specific as possible. I want it to be big enough to house all my kids and their spouses and grandkids. I want to have a pool. I want to be near wildlife, things like
Yeah.
that. And then, my partner may be wanting to retire in Manhattan. It may be just we've never had this conversation, so we don't know. We assume we're on the same page. And so if we're not having those conversations, then like you said, we are just spending to spend when it's like a top down approach. We need to figure out what's the end goal and then what steps do we need to make to get there, and what are we doing right now that is not going to help us get there. And I'll give you one really, really exciting example, because sometimes finances are doom and gloom. I led a class a couple months ago and met this incredible couple. They were very young. They're both in recovery, which was really exciting. They were getting their lives back on track. They had 2 kids. They had never taken a vacation ever in their lives. They were both back on track with working full time, kids in school, the whole nine. And they did this class, and over the course of the 9-week class, they were really conscientious about their spending. They started paying off debt, and they realized that one of their mutual goals was they wanted to see snow. They've never traveled outside of Florida, which means their kids had never traveled outside of Florida. So on week 8, they announced to the class that they had made, I mean, in such a short period of time as well, they'd paid off enough debt, they've saved enough money that they had bought 4 tickets for them and their kids to fly to Colorado to visit family for the very first, on an airplane for the first time.
Nice.
Okay, to go see snow for the first time, to take their very first family vacation, debt free, for a week in January. And like, it still gives me goosebumps. I mean, people were crying. Everybody was so emotional about it. It was so powerful, to see that happen. So like, it's possible.
That's awesome. So are you from Florida, Sarah?
The short answer is yes. We moved here when I was 5. So yeah, I'm lived in the Pinellas County area for a long time.
Oh,
So.
Yeah,
wow.
no, that
Okay.
doesn't count. I was gonna say
I
not
was born in Dallas.
okay. Not,
Doesn't count? Okay.
I was gonna say not seeing snow is not so unbelievable. The first time I ever saw snow fall and stick to the ground was when I was in law school.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really? And where was that at?
I went to law school in Birmingham, Alabama.
Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama. So
Oh,
I
all
was
right. Wait. Okay, wait. We need to time out. Are you an Auburn fan or an Alabama fan?
I am a Florida State alumni.
All right. Well,
All right.
before we get into a riot here, it's like college football.
College
Jeez.
football season is the practices are officially underway. So I was born in Tampa. I grew up in Miami. I went to Florida State undergrad, and then I was in Birmingham, Alabama for law school, college, Samford University, Cumberland School of Law. So I was in Birmingham, and it was, I always thought the Florida State-Miami rivalry was crazy. I thought the Florida State rivalry was crazy. The Iron Bowl is insane.
Insane, yeah.
The week of the Iron Bowl, I'd be in the courthouse in Birmingham trying to file something. There'd be people wearing, the Alabama colors or the Auburn colors, and they'd walk by each other, roll tide, and what is War Eagle, because their mascot's a tiger, so they say War Eagle, or I don't understand.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's all confusing, but
It doesn't.
but
It's so
the Iron Bowl is kind of crazy. But we kind of got off the rails. My only point was, it's not so crazy to believe that people don't see snow for the first, I don't know, in my case, 20-something years of your life.
That is amazing.
So no,
Okay,
but
fair enough.
that is awesome. I was gonna say, I don't know. Maybe you guys can help diagnose. I don't know if I'm a spender or a saver. I think I am a saver. I've got, part of my salary automatically goes into my checking account or my savings account rather, every month, so I never see it. It automatically goes in there.
So that's a technique, though. Let me ask you this: if I were to give you $1,000 right now, what would you do with it?
I probably would get myself a little something, not something crazy. I'd probably go out and buy an expensive bottle of bourbon, or I'd go out and I'd buy,
Well, I know what to get you for your birthday.
right?
Gotcha.
Or I'd go out and buy, something nice for the kids. Maybe I'd go out and buy, $150 Lego set that we could put together, or something like that. And
So it sounds like a giver, because there's certain things that you're putting there as well.
Right.
But
And
you're
then,
already to kind of like, some of it's gonna, like, right away.
But the
Some of
bulk
it's
of
for
it's-
the rainy day.
yeah,
You're
the
already,
bulk of it is going into at least half, if not more, is going into savings.
Yeah. So you're a saver at heart.
Saver.
But we all have the tendencies to do both. But it's always that, if I'm, under the gun, kind of in that situation, like, what happens if I'm just given a big lump sum or something like that? My initial is like, dude, what am I buying? That's the initial. Chris is my wife is like, whoa, we got to, rainy day. So depending on the personality itself, it comes from background. It could be, how you were raised, how things happen. That's what's going to trigger your kind of that emotional kind of like, the response. And a lot of us, it's always stress, right? Money is stress.
Right.
So we're always reacting based off of that fight or flight. So usually it's that first reaction that tells you more of how you are when it comes to money.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I guess I'm a saver.
That's a great
You
point.
are a saver, my friend.
Yeah.
But with the podcast, I think it kind of gave it away.
I think with all of the money I put into the show, that's what gave it away.
A lot of saving there.
I actually did get a lead potentially on a producer, so that may or may not be coming. So
all right.
But again,
Nice.
Sarah, going through your website, you work with independent adults, you work with newly engaged, with married couples, with business owners, again, single moms, divorcing or divorced women. I assume, and maybe this is a question for both of you, I assume there's a different approach if you're working with a newly engaged couple versus a married couple versus someone going through a divorce. Is the approach different, or is it all the same concepts, just delivered in a different way?
I think George, feel free to answer too. I think our styles vary, but also I think the concepts are pretty foundational. They just will vary depending on where you're at. I had a girl years ago. She was 20 maybe, and I started coaching her, and literally her question, I said, okay, how much are you making? Okay, great. What do we do with that? How much are you putting in a checking and saving? And she was like, how do I open a bank account?
That's good foundational knowledge right there.
Basics. Yes. I said, sorry, what do you mean? She goes, well, do I just like walk into a bank? They just let you walk right in? Like, do I have to knock on the door? Do I make an appointment?
Tell her to walk.
Like,
tell her.
we gotta have to take.
Tell her to walk in with a hat and a mask on.
Oh, jeez.
And wearing a long cloak
with a letter, with a note,
with a note.
I need to open a checking account.
I need to withdraw some money.
Yeah, they'll greet
jokes.
you very quickly. They will help you very fast. They'll escort you out. Yeah, so that was a really unique situation. But I mean, there are so many young people that are in situations like that are just using apps and don't have a concept of how to save or spend. Then for a couple who's maybe newly engaged, if they've not joined finances, then that's to me a totally separate conversation than a married couple who has had everything meshed together for 10 years, and they jointly have gone into credit card debt. They've both maybe brought in student loans. They just bought a new car that they can't afford. To me, it's a little bit different. What do you think, George?
No, I would agree with you. It's personal finance, so it's going to be each situation is personal. And I would even agree, like someone who's learning how to do things is going to have a different question than someone who's, there's no debt and they're just looking for like, what do I do next? How do I invest, or how do we manage that? The other thing too is a lot of the clients that I see too is that crisis client where it's like, oh my goodness, am I, is bankruptcy next? Should I be, kind of be talking to Shawn, kind of work in that system? What do I do next? How do I handle those? How do I just get the head above water so that I can keep the lights on? So there's so many different ways to manage it, but you're right. It's we need a budget, right? There's certain things that you need in place in order to be successful, but it really it really just depends on the situation and their situation and how they, what are
Right.
they needs when it comes to that too. So
Right.
I would
Yes.
I would agree. It's that's why it makes it fun, because there's always a new conversation. There's always something new that happens there.
Yeah, and I was thinking
Yes.
while you were
I
saying
agree.
that, I was thinking while you were explaining that, there is now, I've talked to a couple different people, when you add a spouse to a bank account, we'll get to the legal part of the podcast for 2 seconds.
Yeah, please.
In Florida,
Please.
things owned by husband and wife are protected as exempt. So if the husband the husband doesn't pay his Visa bill, Visa can't come after assets that are owned by the husband and wife. And there used to be a big deal about, well, when did you add your wife to the account? Did you start up a brand new account with your wife? Did you just add your wife to the account? I think there was a change in the law a couple of years ago that basically said you can add your spouse to an account and it would still be protected. So that's a lot of what I get into when it finally does come to me and they're getting divorced or they're thinking about divorce, or one has all the debt but they're still married. Then we have to get into those issues of, when did you create the bank account? Who's on the bank account?
Right.
Who's on title to the house? Who's on title to the car? Who took out
Right.
this loan? Is it joint? Is it one? Is it
Yeah.
the other? So those are all the
Right.
things that matter to me when it has to go sideways.
Makes sense.
So
It's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess. And that's for all those reasons, you want to have these conversations early and often. These should be preventative conversations, not reactive conversations when it's too late and you're getting, letters from creditors that you didn't know that your, spouse had a credit card that, they'd racked up $10,000 on, or, the mortgage wasn't being paid and you thought that it was. These are conversations that need to, or they're spending money on. I had an interesting couple that like, so I'd be interested to hear what your thing is for both of you guys. I like to buy little things. I like Amazon purchases. I want to get, I'm a girly girl. I want to get my nails done. Probably not something that you have any interest in. I like.
I got two
stuff.
daughters,
I like to buy
so
jewelry.
they do.
Well,
So you understand. Yeah, exactly.
George and
I like those things.
George and I combined probably don't visit the barber nearly as often, or the hairstylist nearly as often as you do.
I love it.
That seems like a fair assessment. Yes. But I had a couple, so like that, so that's my thing. If I, had unlimited funds, it would be on small stuff like that. I had a couple, then the husband was really into tech. He was very smart, like, every light in his house was controlled by an app on his phone, the thermostat, everything. Did he need all of this tech? No. And did he have like an entire storage shed full of tech related things that he could probably sell on Facebook Marketplace for tens of thousands of dollars?
Right.
Yes, but that was his thing. That's how he spent money. And she liked to spend money on like home furnishings. So it's not necessarily that your spending is the problem or that the thing that you want to spend the money on the problem. Again, it's the communication is what it boils down to. To me, and my background's in therapy, so like the finances are just a symptom, of like an unhealthy financial life is just a symptom of other things going on, which is mental and spiritual and physical and emotional. They're all connected.
Yeah, well, I think for me, the way I do my spending is more. I'm kind of like you in that I like the little things. In other words, I'm not going to go out and make a huge purchase. I'm not going to make, a 4-figure purchase, a 5-figure purchase, even a 3-figure purchase without putting a lot of research in. I remember when I first moved to Clearwater back in 2001 was when I first moved from Miami to the Clearwater, Tampa Bay area. And I remember I moved here in October, November-ish, and my birthday's in December. And I thought, I'd finally broken away from mom and dad, and I'm out on my own, and I'm an attorney, and I'm living my own life, and I wanted to reward myself with a birthday present. I wanted to buy myself a birthday present. You remember the store Things Remembered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That they engrave.
Yeah.
You familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I went to Things Remembered, and I bought a flask with my initials on it. Although I am sensing another common.
Yeah, I'm thinking we gotta take you to another meeting there, bud.
I think I need to go. But I mean that's I spent a couple of bucks. I bought myself a birthday present. Nice job in moving out here. We just got back from a vacation at Disney. My kids were going nuts because my mom was there and basically an open credit card from
spend
grandma.
beautifully, of course.
I bought myself I was at Disney for an entire week. I bought myself a hat.
Nice. Lucky.
Nice.
That's it.
Thanks, Grandma.
Yeah. No, I bought. Grandma didn't buy me a hat. I bought me a hat.
Well, I mean, I imagine other things you'd have to worry about.
Well, Grandma bought me food, and Grandma bought me the hotel.
Exactly.
And Grandma bought me the tickets into the park.
Nice.
But
Well, at least you got the hat.
I want to meet Grandma.
Good for you, bro.
I got
Nice small spending there. I like
got
that.
myself a hat. So
Very
I'm like
nice.
you, a very small.
Okay, but important question. Did you bring the flask?
The flask. They wouldn't let it in there.
They wouldn't let it in the park,
park.
so I did not bring the flask. But I did.
Too bad.
I did bring. Yeah, I brought a bottle of bourbon that did not make it back, and I brought Bloody Mary supplies. That
You got to get through the Disney trip,
mean,
so
yeah.
I see how. I see how. Why? Yeah.
The Disney trip was 7 days and 6 nights,
Beautiful.
and
Oh my
I had
gosh.
like 10 straight days of Bloody Marys.
Okay.
So-
All right. And I think, Shawn, we're going to have to talk after the podcast, but
we're
that's just me.
hilarious.
Here's the thing. I
No,
would
honestly,
say.
I think that's the only way to get through Disney.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, with 2 kids,
Right,
My
me,
mom,
yeah.
my sister, my niece.
Here's the thing, guys. There's no fault in the little spending. I always say we have to understand it's the lifestyle. Again, what lifestyle do we have? We spend within our means. Those are the things that we have to be more cautious of. And I think, at the end of the day, guys, what are your goals? What are your priorities as a couple, as a person? Making sure that it's reflected in your budget. If all you're doing is making money to spend money, and you're not feeling like you're getting anywhere, that's where I think, again, Sarah, a good coach can really help you to really just kind of fine tune and put a foundation in place for that future. Because I guarantee you, it's cool when you're doing it when you're 20. Hey, no big deal. Life is great. Da, 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 da. But it's not that cool when you're like, 50. Shawn's age.
Right.
You're not that far off.
I know, but I'm not going to admit it, so we'll move on.
That's
Well,
funny.
And what you said, also, George, resonates with me. I remember learning very early from my dad, as I would get raises, as I would get more money. My dad would always caution me, don't let your lifestyle be dictated by what you make.
That's it.
If you're at a certain lifestyle and you make more money, you just put more of it away in savings. Right. And if you want to bump up your lifestyle a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, lifestyle creep is real.
Right.
And just be aware of kind of where you want to spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, I want to,
Yes.
Sarah, give out your contact information. We are flourishcoaching.com. Sarah at theflourishcompanies.com. You're on Instagram. You're on Facebook. I did want to ask a question about the coaching programs. You'd mentioned you were in the group coaching program. Is your coaching, I assume in this day and age, you would coach anyone, anywhere in the country. You would do, online video, Zoom, or do you do in person? What does the structure of your coaching look like?
It's just a matter of preference and availability. So Zoom is obviously the easiest thing to do, but in person is, I really love in person as well. You get a much better read on people. But doing groups in person is also brings its own fun. I love the collaboration, and I love when people are honest. And I think that you get a lot more out of that when it's in person, but we'll absolutely do it on Zoom. But I do think there's something fun about the collaboration of people just sharing, like, they're like, you guys will not believe what stupid decisions I've made. And then they're like, I'll one up you. Listen to my stupid story, and they go
Hold
around.
my beer.
But then they also share, yeah, exactly. But they share the wins too. Like, we paid this credit card off. We never thought that that was going to be possible. You know, we sold that car because we realized we didn't need it in this season of life. You know, we can afford to put our kid in private school, whatever, you know, the thing is. It's nice to have that group cohesion there to really encourage each other.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you being a guest on this week's show. Is there anything we missed? Anything more you want to talk about or address?
Gosh, I think that we've covered all of it. I mean, you know, a good chunk of it. I really appreciate you guys having me on and being willing to talk about this. So that's one of the last things that I normally say when I do presentations or podcasts or talk to people is just start somewhere. So that's my encouragement to people, is to start somewhere, have the conversation, to blow the lid off of the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment of, you know, finances. It shouldn't be something that we're afraid to talk about, you know, whether amongst friends or with your partner. It's something that has to be discussed so that we can get better. So that's the encouragement that I leave with people, is just start today and start somewhere.
Love it.
Yeah, I've said many times that people think their situations are unique, and they're really not.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have a job if
no
situations were unique.
Absolutely.
So they're really not.
Sure.
Well, we thank you for being a guest, Sarah. We appreciate you being a guest on the show. I do want to mention again real quick our sponsor, Magic Mind, magicmind.com/crushing20. And again, I love the product. I believe in the product. I wouldn't promote it on the show if I wasn't using it myself, if I didn't think it was a good product to use. And again, like George, no jitters, no highs, no lows, no crashes, no peaks, no valleys. So magicmind.com/crushing20, that will support us. Our other sponsor, our other longtime friend, Sam Cohen. So again, if you're an attorney or title company, or if you own a law firm or have a title company and you want malpractice coverage, talk to Sam. He'll give you apples to apples comparison with what you've got now versus what he can provide for you. If he can't get you a better deal, he won't pressure you into signing anything. You can contact him, sam@attorneysfirst.com. Again, if you want to help us, if you want to give us some money to spend, which we will spend on the show, I promise.
On the show.
But if you want to give us some money to spend, you can do that at our Patreon page. So patreon.com/crushing debt. That's our Patreon page. Whew. Other than that, I think
it's a good episode.
Yeah.
I like it when the coaches gang up on the lawyer. It's always a good thing.
I think I held my own okay today.
Yes, you did, sir.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Sarah. We appreciate you being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks. And we hope that at the end of the month you have more money rather than at the end of the money you have more month. And we will talk to you in next week's episode of the podcast.